ladies and gentlemen, just over 100 years ago, this site was under threat of development. It might have become yet more housing around here, but a local resident, Denton Covington, decided to try and stop that, and he was very active in raising money locally, and he raised enough money from the local community that the then council was prepared to dig into its coffers and raise and add more money and purchase this site and turn it into the gardens we're now standing in. History, of course, has a way of repeating itself, and what we've done in the last year is raise money from the local community. The council has dug deep into its pockets, and the Rookery is now something like it's restored to something like its former glory. With the Heritage Lottery money, and with perhaps some further local fundraising, I don't know, and with a planned group of volunteer gardeners to help out in the Rookery, and with, we hope, commitment of Lambeth Council, we can imagine that the Rookery will continue to be what it is now, which is the sparkling jewel rather than the somewhat tarnished jewel in the crown, in Streatham, and indeed Lambeth's crown, and that will continue for the next 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Had we been standing here 354 years ago, in 1659, we would have been standing in the middle of a very large field opening out onto Streatham Common. And if we had glanced in that direction, we would have seen 4 labourers weeding in the field under the sort of weather conditions we've enjoyed today. And so, not unnaturally, they sought refreshment. And seeing a little bubbling brook coming out of the side of the field, they went up to it and they drank. And within a matter of moments, they experienced the purging effects of the water. And thus, Streatham Mineral Wells was discovered. In an age when regularity of the bowel was considered a good indication of health, you can imagine the impact that discovery made. By 1670, huge crowds of people were coming here, and their carriages lined Streatham High Road for a mile up the road while they waited their turn to come here and drink of the Streatham waters. We do know that the waters here had a somewhat mawkish taste, and they smelt somewhat like boiled eggs. But they had one advantage. They were 3 times as potent as those waters at Epsom. And it was that potency which gave them the edge over the other wells and spas discovered in the locality. Great claims were made for their medical benefits. The local locksmith felt unwell. He drank of the Streatham waters, and within a couple of hours he evacuated 4 worms, one of which was 8 foot 3 inches long. Now we know this to be so because the rector of Streatham measured it and confirmed its length.
I'm not going to do that
now! And Mandy is unaware that that's one of her duties in the rectorship. It was on the back of such sensational claims that the popularity of the Streatham Mineral Wells really took off. And there were 3 wells developed on this site, only one of which of course survives today, and that is the Wisham Well, which is over there on your right hand side. Unfortunately, by the 1780s, the wells here had become contaminated, and the business moved off to a site just off Valley Road, which had recently been discovered, and they continued to operate there until the Second World War, when Hitler, learning about the importance of the Streatham waters, sent the Luftwaffe over to bomb the site, and hence they're not in production anymore. After the wells closed here, a chap called Williamson built a magnificent mansion up on the terrace with wonderful views over the surrounding countryside. Sadly, his mansion doesn't survive today, but the only remnant that we have of it are the white gate piers on the entrance as you came in, which if you look very closely, you can see his coat of arms. Over the following century, a succession of wealthy residents moved in to William Wilkinson's house, which was subsequently known as the Rookery, because at that time there was a large number of trees on the border which were inhabited by rooks, and I do have a picture of those trees at home proving that fact. One of the more prominent members who lived in that house over its 100 years of existence was Sir Kingsmill Grove Key, whose father was twice Lord Mayor of London and whose son John Key, Kingsmill John Key, was a famous cricketer and captain of the Surrey County Cricket Club between 1894 and 1899. Kingsmill Key died in 1900, and in the following years the house was not occupied, and when local residents learnt that it was likely to be purchased by developers, they formed a committee under the chairmanship of Stenton Covington, and they set about raising £3,000 to purchase the estate and make it the wonderful garden that we see it is today. Now, I was given 5 minutes and 10 seconds, so that's my time up. But if you want to find out more about the history of the site, I do commend this book to you by my good friend and colleague Brian Bloice and Daphne Marchant, which will give you not only the history of the Rookery, but also of Norwood Grove, which abuts this site. Tonight, it's only £5 a copy, and there are a number of people holding copies should you wish to purchase them. Thank you very much indeed.